director of the Environmental and Sustainability Authority in Tel-Aviv-Yafo municipality. Hello, Ethan. Hello. And he will be followed by our wonderful Vicente Domingo, the director of the CEMAS Center of Valencia. CEMAS stands for Centro Mundial de Valencia para la Alimentación Urbana Sostenible. Vicente is also a distinguished member of the steering committee of the Milan Pact, while Eitan is the coordinator of the steering committee for this current mandate. So, Eitan, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Yota. We have a challenge as an international organization, how we keep our strengths together and knowledge to keep flow between our cities due to the fact that we cannot have person-to-person meetings. So I'm very happy for this first Zoom meeting that we have because I think that we found it even in your cities as a solution now for the distance that we have to keep from each other, but the knowledge must flow. And we find out that we deal with the same problems in different cities, and there are wonderful ideas and solutions that come from many places. So the decision here was to take cities around the Mediterranean that have more or less the same diet and same weather and same problem, and try to bring it up and see how can we combat it in a better way. It's very good for the MUFPP because there are several, maybe Yota, you can extend after that, several meetings like that all across the globe. And hopefully we will be able even to have such a global meeting at the time that was supposed to be the annual meeting. We do hope, and we saw the invitation from Barcelona, that for 2021, November 2021, things will be better and we will be back to our normal life and we'll be able to meet in person and do what we do the best. So thank you, Yota. Thank you, everybody. Valencia, our co-sponsor for that. And the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First of just a couple of words in order to say to you, be all very welcome here. In the ancient culture of Greece, there was a concept, a wonderful concept that is agora. Agora is the common space. It's the place where everyone, every citizen has the right to say something and to learn something. So more or less, somehow we are doing the same many years later in the sense to share knowledge, share illusions, share strategies. Cities, as you know, are the nest of civilization. Civilization means common values, common progress, and a common destiny. So these wonderful things are very welcome, not only for us, I am sure, but for all of you. Today, in this new and difficult COVID context, we have verified that local actions affect directly to the global strategies. So let's share our knowledges, let's share even mistakes and even failures in order to learn more and let's be again the nest of civilization in order to have a permanent influence to the rest of the globe. So my friends, thank you very much for this wonderful initiative. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Eitan, y muchísimas gracias, Vicente. It's time for me now to pass the floor to the moderator of the next session. Most of you know her, but just for the record, let me tell you that she has an immense knowledge and understanding of urban food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Florence Egal. Florence, the floor is yours if you're ready.
You have to unmute her.
She's disappeared.
Right at the moment of her presentation.
I apologize. Thank you very much.
You know how to make an entrance, Florence. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for the organizers to inviting me. Most of you know how important it is to me in particular when we're talking of Mediterranean. And I think Vicente was talking of agora, and I was talking of aperitivo. So I think we are talking of interacting within very similar cultures. It's important, before we started already, we had Jota talking of the word chaos. And indeed, COVID-19 is doing chaos. And chaos is actually an opportunity to change. We know that COVID-19 is impacting cities first and foremost. First, because there's a lot of people in city. They meet and they move all the time, so they're very good at spreading the virus. Also, they live in crowded spaces, they're very contaminated air very often, and it seems to make the virus extremely happy. So the issue is cities didn't have the time to think, what the hell are we going to do? They had to do something. They had no choice. They were in the front line and they had to react immediately. So the importance of that is it has unblocked a certain number of bureaucratic hurdles that we know are not very conducive to changing our way of working. So we are learning a lot from COVID. We're learning the bad way, but we're also generating a lot of good experiences, and it's not stopping. We are all now embarking on that second wave, and we have to learn from that first wave to say, okay, this was wrong, this was okay, and we need to strengthen that. And it is very, very important in that meeting that we start exchanging information to see how we can, you have all signed the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Does that need to be reoriented, revisited? How do we need to change our priorities as a follow-up of COVID? So I'm going to get back to the previous speaker, Ethan. I don't need to introduce you, they all know you by now. So we're going to start with Tel Aviv and Valencia, who are the two host cities of this event, and are going to tell us what they've done.
Thank you. Thank you, Flores. I think that one of the important things that you said, even the phrase food security was not something that people wanted to hear about. They didn't realize that there are, even before the COVID, people that suffer from food security, poor families, that eat food that is not the best for them. And COVID helped us with few of the things. This is a picture of the volunteers that in the first days of the curfew here took food, whatever they could find, whoever contributed anything, and shipped it to the families in need. And there were a lot of phone from all across, from neighborhoods that never asked for food. And they need to be a thought of how we can continue with this, because you can't have volunteer for such a long time. You don't have people contribute food for such a long time. So this was a big problem that we had to fight. Guy, give me the next slide. So we were ready with a triangle of ideas of what to do in general, and we emphasize it for the COVID. One of them was how we can teach families in a stressful time that many of them lost their job, how to buy food and not to waste it, because families, according at least in Israel, 30% they throw to the garbage. So how can you save it and you save money? That was the first thing. How to do it via the internet, because not all of them went to the groceries, so you had to also how to make an order for food to come to your home, how to make it wise so you buy the right things, how to buy the better food, because it was the first time that many of the families they stay at home and they have 3 meals for the family. There is no restaurant outside. The mother or the father doesn't come back only at 7 p.m. and everything is behind them. So this is a new thing for families, how to deal with it, how to cook. So we gave them advice of what they can do. They were more open for it. Recipes, live with chefs that tell them how to cook the food and make it healthier, and also to take it as an opportunity to present new taste for the kids. Because they're at home, we can allow them to try other things. The other thing that we tried to promote was the fact that we can help them grow some of the food at their home, at the community gardens, at their own backyard. And this is something that we also emphasize. So this triangle, we now extended it more and more, and there are more people that are willing to listen. And in the food grow, we also were able, due to the COVID, to put, I will show it later, a container that is sophisticated that can grow food very fast and very healthy. I think that what we found, and I will pass it to a colleague of mine, that our poorest community that has the most difficulty are foreign workers and illegal immigrants that are in Israel, in Tel Aviv. We have probably 30 to 40,000 of them, have no social security. They were fired from the restaurants, the hotels, the tourist industry, from wherever they used to work. And now we have tens and thousands of people with no social security that can back them up like other Israelis that are not working, that were poor before that, but now it's even toward the edge. And now I will pass it to a colleague of mine that work with this community to talk about what we're doing there. Avital, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abigail Hurwitz. I'm from Mesila. We're a municipal department that works with asylum seekers and undocumented communities in Tel Aviv. There are, as Eitan said, about 40,000 people living in Tel Aviv today who don't have any kind of status in Israel. This community has always been poor. There isn't any support system. I think Eitan mentioned this, but I'll expand. They're completely unrecognized by the state, meaning that there isn't any kind of stipend, any kind of allowance that they can get. There are also very minimal services that this community can get that also includes health insurance. So many people are also not insured by health policies. This community, because they've always had trouble with financial issues, they've always had to work in manual labor and with very, very, very long hours. In addition to that, they're also the support systems from their families aren't really there. So the families stayed behind, and they're also a new community. Most of the people that we work with, they've been here for 10, 12 years, and they aren't really the first immigrants who came in and helped them navigate the Israeli system. Now, as you can imagine, this crisis hit them the hardest. 80%, we assume there's around 80% right now, are still unemployed. They were the first ones to be fired. They work in hotels, in cleaning offices, in restaurants, all these places that are still closed down. We were the first ones, they'll be the last ones to go back to work. And we see that we're in the midst of a humanitarian crisis right now. It's a kind of poverty that we haven't seen in Israel, at least not in the last 50 years. I'm talking about people who are being thrown out of their homes. I think that's happening more and more right now. And we see many adults and many children who don't know where their next meal is going to come from. You can go to the next slide. We completely shifted everything that we do in our sort of welfare office the minute that the first lockdown started in Israel. You can see in this slide the amount that we've distributed between the beginning of March until the end of September. So I just also want to reiterate that if an Israeli person, somebody who has an ID, is struggling, so they are able to get some kind of stipend from the government. In addition, if someone has trouble with food and it's that kind of poverty, they can go to their welfare office and a social worker will put their information into the system. The system will allow them then to get even food delivery to their homes. This isn't something that you can do without an ID number. So when people come to us as social workers, I'm a social worker, and ask us for food, there isn't some kind of system that we can feed their information into. We have to just make up all the responses as we go. So I think in the day-to-day before this crisis, we maybe gave out around 10 food packages every week. Now we give out between 20 to 25 packages of food every week. And in addition to that, we also give out a lot of food vouchers, which is really the preferred means that the community, that's what the community really prefer us to be giving out. So in response to all this, we started our collaboration with the Batavon program. And there are several different things that we started planning along with them. Something that's very important, and I see our partner here, Einat, with us, that we started doing with the Ministry of Health is a widespread research on the issue in order to gather data. I do want to say a word about that collaboration. This is something that's really not to be taken lightly because this is a government office really looking at this community. That's something that doesn't happen in the day-to-day. So this is something that we're really happy about. Sometimes when a crisis happens, there are also some positive outcomes that can come out of it. So this is a very exciting partnership as far as we're concerned. In addition to that, we've recruited a food security coordinator. This is also something that's really new. There hasn't been anything like this in Israel before, where a municipality has a food security coordinator who's specifically working with immigrants. And she's doing a lot of mapping, doing a lot of cooperation with different organizations. And that's a really exciting venture that we're on right now.
Abigail, you have 1 minute.
Okay, no problem. Sorry. I'll be quick. Another really important thing that we're planning is our social groceries. We're working with different community activists, community leaders, in order to have a place that, first of all, we want to have nutritious and healthy food coming out to a large portion of the community, and to make sure that we have this resource for them. In the future, we're also going to use this as an educational center where we can also give out information with workshops and videos to get them to have the families have information on how to be healthier on a budget. Thanks. Back to Eitan.
Thank you very much. This was
Florence, just a second. Just the last thing. This is the container, and the idea is to take 1, 2, or 3 containers like that next to the neighborhoods that are in need. Help grow it. I will finish here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Eitan. Really interesting, and of course it's so short, 7 minutes to tell about everything you've been doing. I do want to, we are finding that the crisis really made municipalities aware concretely of poverty and the informal sector issues in their city. And I love the frugal kitchen management approach that you've been talking about. And it is really great to see that actually the crisis has generated new governance by renewed collaboration with research and hiring food security staff. So I think in a way, these are things we can build on for the future. Thank you very much. Marta for Valencia. Maybe
hello.
Hola.
Hello, hola. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my screen. One moment.
And any questions, please write in the chat box so that we can respond directly. Anybody can respond or keep for the question and answer.
Just also, if you allow me, Florence, to just say something that I forgot before. I have this task of being your timekeeper till today. So after 7 minutes you've been allocated, I might need to advise you that you have like 1 minute to conclude. Thank you. Please go ahead.
So I don't need to worry about it. That's great. Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My name is Marta Landi Palanca. I am a technical officer of the Agriculture, Sustainable Food and Garden Council in the city of Valencia, Spain. For me, it's an honor to be here today with all of you and to share our knowledge and experiences of our cities related to the moments that we are having to live. As a consequence of the crisis caused by COVID-19, in Valencia, we have learned the solidarity that farmers and small-scale producers who work around the city have shown, since from the beginning, they directly offered their surplus of their products to the city council. Valencia has been a city very committed to promoting the Mediterranean diet among its citizens for a long time. After the Milan Pact in the city of Valencia, several actions have been carried out, also related to the SDG commitments. A document called Estrategia Agroalimentaria was developed by different stakeholders. This document is intended to create a transversal action in local food policies. It's intended to establish a sustainable agri-food system.
May I just interrupt you for a second, because we're not seeing your presentation. Can you try and see if you have, no, I'm sorry. If you have shared your screen, it's this green little button on the bottom of your screen.
Oh, okay.
Just press that and then we should see it.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Sure.
We're not seeing it yet?
One moment, yeah. Yeah, now.
Perfect. Please go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Sorry. La Tira de Contar is a short commercialization channel. It is a space where local small producers sell their own fruits and vegetables directly to small businesses and local markets in the city. Permanent awareness campaigns for citizenship or nutrition have been carried out, seasonal and proximity food. A project of the installation of urban gardens called Sociopolis to enable residents of Valencia to cultivate their own fruit and vegetables. One of the main objectives is a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle habits. In the city of Valencia, common spaces have been created in which all the stakeholders involved in the food system interact, such as Consell Alimentari Municipal and Consell Agrari Municipal. To address the challenges posed during the crisis, the local government of Valencia has supported and valued the activity of producers, almost all small producers, in Valencia and its metropolitan area, who have worked hard and despite the difficulties, have guaranteed the supply in the worst moment of the pandemic. The aid policy from the City Council has gone two ways. In the first place, in the administrative route, more than 200 cultivation proceedings were issued, so that despite mobility restrictions, small producers would not have problems traveling from their homes to the fields and from there to the marketing points. The owners of small plots were able to continue to the agriculture task of maintaining their fields. Secondly, the essential work of the men and women of the Valencia Garden and of the short distribution channels that have played an essential role in supplying the city during the worst days of the pandemic have been valued. Fresh and quality product despite the enormous transport difficulties in those days. For this, from the Agriculture, Sustainable Food and Garden Council, a short film entitled Renaissance was promoted, which premiered on April 24. Through its dissemination, it has been tried to visualize the great importance of the work carried out by women and men in the countryside, even with fear and with all the difficulties that the pandemic has entailed. A work directed by David Segarra and carried out by Pepe Avalos to show the effort and courage of the orchard farmers to work to feed us during COVID-19 health crisis. It's an audiovisual production that has an original soundtrack, and that reminds us that we have an indispensable tool, the field and the people who work it. This short film aims, therefore, to show inspiring stories that vast majority of people are unaware of, that any times are not told in the mainstream media. It shows the perseverance of the men and women who distribute fresh food to the inhabitants of Valencia. A reflection on the resilience of a military system that has proven highly efficient during the COVID-19 crisis, and in this way remind citizens of the great value of our orchard and the farmers who continue to make an effort every day to feed us. On the other hand, a pilot experience has also launched that began during the movement restrictions caused by COVID-19 and which continues to be carried out today. This experience is a social protection program that consists of the distribution of solidarity food baskets to families or people who are in a situation of emergency and vulnerability and with the impossibility of purchasing nutritional adequate fresh products. It is an initiative that is completed with all the social food programs provided by the Valencia City Council. It's developed with the collaboration of Red Cross and Health and Community Foundation and Participatory Guarantee SGP system Ecoyaures, with the aim of being able to include fresh and quality products in the food batch that until now we are only distribute with no perishable products. Ecoyaures is in charge of collecting fresh products for small producers in different towns in the area and prepare boxes with vegetables and fruits that they distribute to both Red Cross and Health and Community Foundation, channeling their products to the Social Protection Program. The objective of this initiative is twofold, since it aims to help people at risk of exclusion so that they have a nutritionally adequate diet with fresh produce, support local agriculture, and promote 0-kilometer products and the peri-urban garden. Despite the lack of communication that normally exists between government, academia, and civil society, the emergency has been addressed through understanding and collaboration by all actors involved in the food system: local government, small local producers, and the most vulnerable people. It has been observed that...
Sorry, you have 1 minute to conclude. Thank you.
Ooh. Sorry, okay.
1 and 15 seconds for you. Please go ahead.
Okay, only 1 minute. It has been observed that during extreme situations, such as one that we are living, the role of local authorities has become essential. During the state of alarm, the Union of Consumers of the City of Valencia conducted a survey of the population on the uses and customs of purchase. The results indicate that citizens are more willing to buy local products in the markets, demanding safety and quality. Around the city of Valencia, we have an agri-food system, the vegetable garden, which is one of the fundamental pillars of the Mediterranean diet. Cities are the key to educate their citizens to lead healthy lifestyle, as well as safeguard the sustainable future for the next generation. The youngest population is one that will mark the future of our agri-food model on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. Quite complementary to what Tel-Aviv-Yafo was talking about. I really love the issue of small-scale producers going to the municipality to ask them, what do we do with what we produced? Solidarity food baskets, we'll hear more. And I also like very much your insistence on the role of consumers who can actually decide, take their purchasing act as a political act where they're really going to build up more sustainable food system in their territories. So after the two host countries for this webinar, we are now going to go to Montpellier. Montpellier hosted the last Milan Urban Food Policy Pact Summit last year in October. Therefore, we are looking very much forward. I know you change mayors in between, but I am glad to see that the commitment of your city is there, and we have so much to learn from you. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you, Florence. Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. I actually attended the Milan Pact meeting, so I'm sure I met quite a lot of you, and I can assure you that we are extremely, extremely motivated, very, very concerned to continue working on all of this together. So a very strong commitment to be by your sides. So I'm Claire Hart, and I deal with that international outreach. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on how things went for us during the COVID crisis. First and foremost, maybe just a bit of context. At the beginning of the lockdown, which took place in March, we were in a situation where we had quite a lot of tension on the supply chain for consumers, for local stores, supermarkets. You know, we had rushes on certain things. Certain shops had no flour left, didn't have cake mix. I'm not even going to talk about toilet paper, but there were all kinds of weird and wonderful things that disappeared off the shop shelves. Home lockdown was pushing people to consume via the super and hypermarket chains. And what we were seeing was that supplies to the networks were heavily impacted by a drop in goods exported from exporting countries, and a drop as well in production from major French agricultural regions due to a lack of available labor and logistics slowdown. So we were in a bit of a sticky situation at the beginning of lockdown. Now, what we realized as well was that our local producers were in difficulty too, because in France, we had a closure restriction on open air markets. So open air markets were all closed and forbidden in most large towns. And that, of course, too, limited potential outlets for producers and added to a context of really intense production due to an early season. We had a very early season this year, so that was problematic as well. So I think, and everybody has said this up to now, I'm thinking of Aiton and Marta as well. Really, what we were seeing was that the most heavily impacted sector of society was the needy, was the underprivileged. So that as well came into our immediate concern when we began the lockdown period. Now, let's talk about the strategy that we adopted to try and get ourselves through this sticky patch. What I could say is that thanks to our sustainable agroecology and food policy that we'd set up prior to this, you know, quite a number of years ago, our metropole, the metropolitan area, had many pre-existing assets that most definitely helped us to boost consumption of local products and also to meet the needs of inhabitants, producers, and shopkeepers. And I'd like to come back to Marta's slide where she was showing that kind of virtuous circle, you know, consumers working with producers, working with the outlets, and working with the administration. That is exactly the chain of organization that we promoted as well. Now, we had a number of assets, as I say, and the first asset is our big wholesale market center for perishable goods and producers. Now, that was very much at the heart of everything we did. The second asset was our BOCAL system, which is actually standing for good and local, bon et local in French in the text. We had a website that we created with 400 sales outlets, 106 collection points, and a selection of home delivery services. That too really helped us reach out to the consumers, connect with the consumers, and get things up and running. We had an indoor market network that helped us to get food flowing through that. And we set up a number of drive-in sites throughout the metropolitan area for a set of designated producers. So the producers would come with their trucks and people would drive up and take food away. As well, we have a very, very vibrant charity sector network in our city. And that too helped us. We worked with them hand in hand to provide food support for the underprivileged. So basically, I would say that thanks to all of this, we were able to really come through relatively head held high, and really to zoom in on the strategy. Our action plan had 3 main points. The first one was to intensify the local food production system. Our wholesale market center has been up and running since 2014 and has been a key tool in our agroecology and food policy. We've got 200 companies in there, 550 employees, and we also have a food processing hub with 6 companies working, processing only local products, a lot of which are organic. Now that created, with the producers area in the market, a direct link between consumer and producer, and also helped us to have fair product pricing. So that was very, very important.
You have one moment. We have one minute to conclude. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So that was a very important thing as well. As I said, we had our Bocal network as well and our retailer system. And just a quick word about the direct delivery service, which was very, very sought after at this time. It was a new service for the wholesale market, and we actually opened up within the wholesale market an order delivery zone with packages made, baskets made up, and delivery service directly from the wholesale market. So that was really very useful as well. Can I just say one word about the underprivileged aid system that we set up? As Ethan said, when the going gets tough, it's obviously the needier members of society that are hit the most. And right throughout the lockdown, we remained in contact, direct contact with 15 charities providing food support, a little bit, you know, to the idea that Marta was giving you. A general kitchen supplied 11 food distributions with several tons of food, and we provided also logistics support and accommodation to charities during this time so that they could continue serving fresh, healthy, hot meals throughout. We also had a bouladrome that was transformed into a storage platform and so on. So yeah, that was for us too a very, very important point. Just a quick conclusion. I'd like to say, I think that the COVID crisis for us was a kind of a bit of a stress test for our food system. And, you know, I mean, it's the case all around the world. And it's a way for us to see that maybe in the past we were working in silos regarding food, and that the best way of doing things is a coordinated, all-in, everybody together effort, which really helps us, I think, to create what we're looking for, a nourishing, resilient, sustainable food future. And we can see through this stress test that it is within our grasp. So thank you. Much more to say, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. So as we said before, too little time, but enough to show the diversity of experiences. Of particular interest, the fact that open-air markets were closed at the beginning. This has been a lesson learned from the French government as we embark on the second wave. They're not closed any longer.
Exactly.
The second important thing is the drive-in sites, which have been very, very effective in France and in other countries. And also, of course, the home delivery, the collaboration between municipality and civil society is something you find throughout. And in that particular case, I found also very interesting that wholesale markets themselves were engaged in home delivery services. So a lot to learn on that. And I hope everything will not go back completely to normal once we've gone over, I suppose, the second stage now.
Exactly.
The next speaker, we had the city hosting the last Milan Urban Food Policy Pact Summit. So now we're going to have the city that is going to host the next Milan Urban Food Policy Pact Summit COVID permitting. So Barcelona, Amaranta, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here and with this opportunity to share knowledge and experiences.
Should I say that you coordinate the project Barcelona World Sustainable Food Capital 2021 and you work in the Barcelona Town Council? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. It's okay. So I'm going to share a presentation on what we did and what we are working now regarding the responses to the COVID crisis. It's 7 minutes, so as you have already seen, it's very short time to say so many things, but I'll try to pack it and be as clear as possible. So Barcelona, what you are seeing is like the data, the tendencies of COVID cases from the beginning of the pandemics to the present time. And for instance, we are experiencing this second wave with more than 50,000 confirmed positive cases since the beginning of the pandemic. At the beginning of lockdown, when we saw the dimensions of we started seeing the dimension of this global threat, we established a coordination group among different areas of the Town Council of Barcelona, in which we were kind of trying to track indicators regarding the tension of the food system of the city. Like we were in contact with the supermarkets to see to what extent their home delivery systems were about to collapse. We were tracking the state of the vulnerability of specific social groups, how much people were in food banks, how much this was increasing. So it was a kind of a work of tracking and seeing these indicators to be able to respond. And we started acting in at least 4 different areas, which it's the ones I'm going to explain. First, regarding Barcelona has 42 municipal markets. This is like municipal infrastructure, public infrastructure, all around the city. And they are very important in all the different neighborhoods of Barcelona. And they are a main way of distribution of food in the city. These municipal markets remained open, and there was strengthened all the home delivery services, which they didn't really have, or most of them they really didn't have. And during the whole pandemic, this was increased and strengthened and developed for most of them, because they were also seeing that the physical consumers were kind of reduced, while the home delivery purchase was radically increased. They were like increasing by days, like by 300% every few days. And regarding open air markets, while there were 2 weeks in which the uncertainty of the situation forced, and also the directions of the health department forced us to close them down, well, we kind of argued with them that actually they were kind of same, like equally safe or even safer than supermarkets that were open. And if they assumed like safety measures and they could be organized around safety measures, they could be reopened again. And that's what we did. They reopened the 5 open air farmers market, reopened with social distancing and security measures. At the same time, from the website of the town council, what we did was to offer resources for the population, for the citizens of Barcelona, regarding and putting them in contact with producers around the city that had lost their clients in regarding like the hospitality sector or the open air markets, and to offer them like a resource in which a lot of these producers outside the city, around the city, they developed home delivery systems. So what we did was to collect all these resources and offer them from the web of the municipality, so people could have an option to also to consume locally and sustainable food directly from the markets. Another project that emerged during this lockdown time was a project called Baskets Against COVID, which was a project articulated by a company. In fact, it was like a publicity company that they wanted to do something for the city. So they normally work with big food companies, like the big like cookies and rice, like big food labels in Spain. And they proposed a project in which the big food labels of Spain would give food, and the town council would coordinate the role of distributing it among vulnerable people. This vulnerable people was chosen by two criteria: economic criteria due to this increase of economic vulnerability and the new economic vulnerable people that were emerging, and also the health-related vulnerability, people who had COVID or who had illnesses or health-related aspects that could their health could be more compromised in the COVID context. So there were 20,000 packs of food served to these kind of vulnerable social groups, and there were packs of like dry food. I don't know how you call it in proper English, but also we also since there was a lot of food from farmers around the city, like fresh food that was not harvested and was going to be wasted. The farmers donated fresh food also to complement these packs with this local sourced food. In the end, all this was 26 public and private agents cooperating in this kind of big scale operation. And of course, since one of the main aspects of this crisis has been the rise of economic vulnerabilities, that required an increased and expand of social services all along the city. So from the beginning of the pandemic, the number of free meals for vulnerable people increased by 192%, although after the state of emergency was kind of after around June, July, or about July, since July it remains with 88% more than previously of the pandemic. So that's an indicator also of the increased food poverty that exists in the city. There were created 8 new food distribution points all around the city. There were 700 new places for food allowances, specifically for homeless people. And the food banks had a steep increase of users from almost 30,000 people to more than 58,000 people.
Amaranta,
yeah. Vale. For us, what the COVID crisis has done is a strengthening of the narrative of the need to transform the food system towards a more local and sustainable food system that is accessible for all. And in this light, we are currently working on these 3 projects. One project is called Alimenta. It's based on, is focused on the food poverty and access to food and sustainable food. And on the other hand, we are working under this umbrella on Barcelona Capital of Sustainable Food, which includes not only the organization and hosting of the 7th Milan Urban Food Policy Pact Global Forum, but also includes the displaying of 93 projects around sustainable, healthy, just, and resilient food. Basically, we want to place this topic on the political and media agenda to force a transition in the city. And I think this also helps us tackle global risks such as COVID or the climate emergency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amaranta. Basically, I think COVID-19 is going to set the agenda for next year's MUFPP Food Summit in Barcelona. 2-3 points I would like to pick up. First, when you said that markets can actually be safer than hypermarkets. And I think in the first wave, there has been too much of a priority given to supermarkets because it was seen as easier, more hygienic, etc., etc. And I think we are learning that what we need is a distribution system that combines supermarkets, open-air markets, and local shops. The other important experience you brought up was the role of the corporate private sector, and you've had a very interesting collaboration with the municipality, and it's the first time this is also mentioned so strongly today. So now we are moving away from these, shall we say, bigger cities. One of the things that is very clear is that if we want sustainable development, small and intermediate cities are going to have a key role to play, because they are the ones that are better connected to the territories and in a better position to bring together economic, social, and environmental issues. So I would like to leave the floor to the city of Montsartou. I don't know if it's Gilles or Thibault that are going to talk.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk, so Thibault Lalanne, and Gilles Perrol, the Deputy Mayor of Montsartou in charge of the food project, is with me as well, and here in case you want to answer some questions. I'm going to share my screen. I think you can see it now. So first of all, Montsartou. So Montsartou is a tiny city of around 10,000 inhabitants, located close to the border with Italy on the French Riviera, but which is mostly known for its ambitious and sustainable food project, which has been existing for many years now. And you have few characteristics of this food project here on the slide, with its 100% organic school canteens, a municipal farm that provides the school canteens with almost all the vegetables, a city which is committed with towards food education of students and citizens, and a very we are living in a very urbanized and adversely territories in terms of urban planning, and we have a municipality that is very ambitious to this regard, with for instance, the tripling of agricultural lands to protect them and to support the settling down of organic farmers on the territory. We also have a municipal department dedicated to the food project, and we work closely with universities and other local authorities in France and in Europe to share our know-how. So this is important to notice. Just now, what have we experienced during the COVID crisis? The key message that I wanted to share today is that thanks to this ambitious project that has been existing for many years, I can fairly say that I think we have passed the test. Our food project has proven resilient, and we managed to mitigate the turbulences. Few illustrations to that. Here you can see the municipal farm, which kept producing during the lockdown. And because of most of the school kids didn't go back to school during the crisis, a part of the production of the harvest was deflected towards the social grocery to help families in needs. And the rest of the production went to the canteens, which kept producing as well for school kids, which came back to schools, few at the beginnings and then progressively more and more over the weeks. Something which is important to note is that we have freezing units in these canteens, which enabled us not to waste any food. We basically froze a lot of the harvest so as to keep it for better days, I would say. And it's something that we usually do during the summertime, during peak time production. Also, at the beginning of the crisis, we realized that our healthcare workers were not as well equipped as we thought they would be. So the canteens, as a symbolic donation, donated equipment protection to the nearby hospitals, blouses, gloves, and we also delivered salads and other vegetables to the hospitals to support, let's say, the healthcare workers. Also, the municipal social center was put under pressure with a great increase of families in needs, people in needs, but managed to mitigate and address this issue with an increase in food deliveries. So, for instance, delivery twice a week to these people, vulnerable people, and an increase in the delivery of meals, hot meals to people. Right at the beginning of the crisis, the municipality sent out a mail to around 2,000 people, most of them above 70 years old. We have talked a lot about the underprivileged people, disadvantaged, but also during this crisis, the elderly were also a key public to take care of. And actually, the municipality also organized a great call out for mobilization from the population, and we got astonishing turnout from people to help with errands for the elderly, for vulnerable people, but also a case, we have an association in charge of social integration through organic market gardening on the territory, and the beneficiaries who are supposed to harvest and cultivate and take care of the production couldn't come to the fields, and instead the population took care of that, took care of the production, took care of the fields, etc. The local actors also managed to, it's something that was already said, but it's something we also experienced. They managed to adapt to the situation with the organization of drive-ins. This is the case of our grocery here, Boomerang, which is the first zero-waste grocery in the province. We also had deliveries of hot meals to homeless people with this association, which was newly created actually, in Soup un Sourire, not necessarily for Montsartou, but mostly for neighboring cities, for instance, Cannes. And finally, it was already mentioned by Montpellier, these open air market issues. We managed, thanks to a negotiation with the services of the states, to keep them alive, and we never closed markets. They stayed open throughout the whole lockdown, so we didn't have any single day without markets. And so,
you know the drill. I'm sorry, this is your 1 minute, please.
Okay, perfect, because this is the last slide. So thank you very much. It's a good transition. So the key message here is we experience a strong resilience of the local food system, which is actually the result of past and long-lasting effort. It's not something you can do in a snap of a finger. And a small city that we are is agile and best placed to address food-related issues at the local level in case of crisis. And this is particularly true in a centralized state as we have, where decisions can be taken by a handful of people, unfortunately, sometimes, which are not necessarily mostly adapted to the local situation. And we've identified 3 key dimensions that we need to further work on, but actually we identified them prior to the COVID crisis, so it reinforced our, let's say, our opinion and willingness to work on them. Social dimension, even in normal times, to work to further support the vulnerable people so that they can have access to quality food, citizen participation, and build up the food democracy and the relocalization of food production through the further support of organic farmers on the territory and the collaboration with neighboring territories. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Thibault. You make it very difficult to make comments because you said it all. There are a couple of things I thought were very interesting also, is that you were supporting health workers. One of my frustration in many cases is the lack of collaboration between health and food sector. And in that particular case, it's actually the food sector volunteering to help the health sector. So it's great. The other, as I think, again, we're finding that the COVID at all levels and for all cities is strengthening the narrative and the need for sustainable food systems. So I think that indeed what we're hearing for all of you is, one, it can be done. It's not perfect, but you're in the right direction, and learning from each other, we can go further. Now, last and not least, the city of Palermo. Palermo has hosted last year an international conference on sustainable food system in the Mediterranean. And I think that everything we have been hearing until now is very much in line with the conclusions of that conference. So without further ado, I will leave the floor to the focal point of Milano Urban Food Policy Pact, Dottoressa Concetta Di Benedetto.
It's a very pleasure to meet you. And now I'm reading Focus, Food as a Means to Healthy Nutrition and Social Integration in the Times of the Pandemic of COVID-19 and our good practice of my city. Again, also the Palermo focal point for the Healthy Cities Network. I would like to stress how important it is to connect the cultural aspect of food with the earth and the social integration, so important in the current situation we all live in. In particular, I will briefly illustrate the action with regard to the pandemic COVID and the strategies that the city of Palermo as a team placed to assist its citizens, especially the vulnerable groups. We all know that the promotion of healthy lifestyles in the population and the adoption of correct eating habits from birth is an essential feature for optimal physical and mental development and for the prevention of many common diseases, allergies, food intolerance, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity. At the base of a good diet, there must always be a serene and balanced relationship with food and excuse me for context. So we are taking a physical, cultural, social, and a psychological approach to food system. Now, Monica Cello will continue to read. Okay.
Hi, I'm Monica. I work with Cettina, the welfare office. The situation before COVID. In the last 4 years, the Department of Education, with the involvement of families, has been promoting a kindergarten food program based on national guidelines for school feeding. Children learn to eat in a healthy way, given that the taste and the culture of food is formed at an early stage of life. The Mediterranean diet not only ensures an adequate supply of nutrients necessary for harmonious growth, but it also introduces children to local foods, new flavors, and stimulates curiosity about food. At the nursery school, children learn also how to behave at the table, to eat avoiding waste, and to appreciate different and new foods and transfer that experience of good eating habits to their families. The approach of food as a means of integration has been expanded in early childhood, and elementary schools in our city is within the strategy with the project with eating. Food from different traditions and cultures not only strengthens the identifying of peoples, but through conviviality and the sharing of habits and traditions, provides an openness to what it is different from us, inducing feelings of acceptance. In our city, there are present numerous and representative communities from the most varied countries of origin such as Morocco, Tunisia, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Peru, or Ghana. These communities must be included in the local society and find a way to express their identity expression and have equal citizen rights. Palermo is now recognized as a city of hospitality. I welcome to be welcome in my turn. Since 2015, the project called Mangio Bio, Mangio Sano, I Eat Organic and I Eat Healthy aims to valorize autochthonous products such as an ancient Sicilian wheat or legumes and other 0 kilometers products. It combines nutrition education with support to local organic markets to facilitate access of quality products to all. Let us not forget food strongly characterized the city of Palermo. The first wave of the pandemic, Palermo was relatively protected during the first phase of the pandemic with a limited number of cases. But the national lockdown had a major impact on vulnerable livelihood groups. An online platform was set up for people requesting support adults, allowing the municipality to consolidate a list of people in need of social protection. Priority was given by the municipality to ensure right to adequate food and dignity through food choice. Food vouchers were allocated through a rechargeable health card which could be used in supermarkets. The municipality also supported a solidarity network to collect and distribute healthy and culturally accepted foods from restaurants and supermarkets, in particular shoppers, to be distributed among homeless people and the most needy families. This could only be done through civil society organizations, confessional or not, present in that territory. Now, the crisis therefore accelerated a change of a governance, and the collaboration and the spirit generated will be essential to respond to the second wave of the pandemic, which this time is affecting significantly the city. From September onwards, 13 miles food vouchers will be distributed to use according to one's personal food choices. Concluding, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact and other efforts of networks represent a vital opportunity and an effective tool to exchange among cities and promote good food policies against the pandemic. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Excuse
me for my English. There is Monica. Excuse me.
Thank you very much. And I know there's a lot of people who would like to be able to speak Italian like you speak English. Anyway, I think another point that's quite important that you mentioned briefly, Cettina, is that you are representing in Palermo the Healthy Cities Network. This is a network which has been set up by WHO. And again, I think it is very, very important that we have tried with the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact to have more systematic collaboration, because often it's the same cities who signed the pact and who are members of the Healthy Cities Network, but they don't talk to each other because they're different staff people, and there's what we know, silos exist, and the bigger the cities are, the nicer the silos are. So thank you very much to everybody. Without further ado, I would pass on the floor to Jaime Berti, who several of us were in Palermo. So I think he will be easily taken from there. Jaime, and then we will open to discussion. Don't forget to put your questions in the chat box. So Jaime, you are working, well, you present yourself. Are you on mute?
Okay. So thank you very much. I would like, first of all, before introducing me, I would like to thank the Milan Pact Secretariat for inviting me as a discussant for this important webinar focused on the Mediterranean city. I strongly think that it's very important to give visibility to and support the networking between the Mediterranean region, cities, and probably I will back on this later on. And I would like also to thank all the participants, because they present very interesting initiatives, and it's very difficult to summarize at this point everything, because really many things, interesting things has been said, and is very difficult. But what is, I think, one point I can get from this presentation is that for everyone, the dramatic consequences of the COVID are turned into opportunities to rebuild new sustainable and food system. So I think that's what come out from these webinars is also that what we witnessed with the COVID, consequences of the COVID is that is the individualism of neoliberal policies is questioned, and the need to turn our cultural approach. So as Claire said, the COVID was a stress test for the food system. And what came out is that the disruption of the COVID has unveiled what is a chronic issue of the food system. It has unveiled to the public, to policymaker, to everybody, two of the main issues of our food system. One is the unsustainability of the food system. And when I talk about food system, I talk about agricultural, but also fisheries food system. In the Mediterranean area, fishing is important as agriculture. And this is very relevant for our food system, for our diet, and also for our economy. And the second is that this global industrial food system is not resilient. It is not able to recover. All the presentation demonstrated that what is needed are bottom-up initiative, policies, and market initiative, civil society initiative, aiming at rebuilding local food system. I think that what we learn, what we get from this consequence is the need of a repoliticization and a reterritorialization of the food system. The governance of the food can be led to the market. The dramatic consequence, and especially for the unprivileged people, demonstrated that the food cannot be treated as a commodity, but is a common. And we need public policy to support more sustainable food system. I take very quickly the conclusion from the French Monsortou analysis, because it's very interesting, and it talk about three dimensions. One is the social dimension, and everybody presented the initiative where public policies was aiming at connecting civil society organization and public institution for unprivileged people, basket initiative. And this is very important. So to going beyond the great divide between markets, civil society, and the public, and reconfigure a new governance system which combine all of them. The second is the need of a more democratic food system. And what has been stressed is the citizen participation and a more food democracy. And the third is the relocalization of the food production. The initiative in Barcelona, the initiative in Valencia, all these initiatives, public and policy initiatives were directed to support short food supply chains. So we can say that the rebuilding of local food system can be a starting point for build new global sustainable system to be understood as a network of a regional localized food system instead of a global industrial food system. I'm a researcher, and I think what we learned today is that it's very important to strengthen the linkages between academia and public institution. I'm the president of the Food Council of Livorno. Livorno, together with Milan and a small city in the province of Lucca, developed a food policy, a food strategy, developed its own food governance, which is built around a food plan and a food council. And what we learned from Livorno is that, and what we said in this in this webinar, is that we need a more integrated policy, combining all the different sectors. And what has been done with the food policy of Livorno, where every alderman contributes with its own policy. The strategy of Livorno has been developed through a deliberative process, so it's democratic, and what is important is also the institutionalization, for of the governance system. And I'm also the member of the steering committee of the Italian network for local food policy, and is a network which is mainly has been founded by academic, but now has as member of the network participate also full movement, and also member of the local government. And what we learn from this experience is that networking is very important, is crucial for changing experiences, for learning from other cities. And I think that, and now I come back to the Mediterranean. I think that the Mediterranean countries has their own unicity. They have biogeographic same situation, story and cultural tradition, food habits. We are talking about the Mediterranean diet, as has been told from Palermo. I think that when we talk about changes in the food system, it's important to change the food supply towards local food supply change, but we need also a change in the culture. And this is very important food education, what has been said by Palermo civil servants. We need a change, a cultural change towards more just, healthy and sustainable food. And
I hate to do this.
Yeah, no, just 1 sec.
Thank you.
Just 1 sec. And probably, I think that could be interesting to strengthen the relationship within the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact between the Mediterranean cities. I don't know if we need to develop, you or we together develop a network, but I think that we need to set up an agora, as been said at the beginning, where the Mediterranean cities can share, their experiences and develop social innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jaime. So it's simple. We get rid of neoliberalism and we get food as a common. So we have solved the problem and we have resilient food systems. Going from an academia to another academia, I would like to start the Q&A with a contribution of Thessaloniki, of Maria Partalidou, who works at university, but also with the Food Council of Thessaloniki. And I'm sure she has heard a lot from you that probably echoes what she has to say.
Thank you, Florence. Yes, it's true. Thank you for today. It's a privilege to be amongst you, and I think it's a privilege to be from this neck of the woods, the Mediterranean. And as you said, the solutions are embarrassingly simple. We just have to act and keep in mind that everything is connected. Food, health, culture. If we don't keep this in mind, I think, as you said also, that maybe we are going to go back to our old habits and old bad policy decisions. Well, in the city of Thessaloniki, if I can share with you what was the first takeaway message from the lived experience of the COVID-19 first lockdown, because we're now during the second lockdown, is that networks matter, and that food system in Thessaloniki, as in any city, can be resilient only if the public sector and the private sector, alongside with the grassroots civil society, work together. What happened during the lockdown was that all participant members of Thessaloniki Food Festival, I will share the links later on, which is a 8-year-old festival in Thessaloniki, accepted a call from the municipality and worked together to share their food surpluses and cook meals for the vulnerable groups. The municipality also supported the central wholesale market to distribute surpluses and minimize their food waste. It provided logistics, social workers, and other resources. But what we didn't do, and this is also maybe a lesson for the future, maybe we can discuss it also during this Q&A, is we didn't empower small farmers in the peri-urban, especially when it comes to the organic open farmer markets. We closed them. I mean, the government closed them, but the municipality just left them bowling alone with the bureaucratic hurdles and the strict restrictions of the COVID. So for me, it's very useful to hear what other cities have done towards this direction, and maybe take some ideas and why not implement them during this second lockdown with the COVID-19 restrictions. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to any other ideas that come up with the discussion.
I'm sure the host cities and Iota will be able to put you in contact if you want to specifically have the emails and phone numbers of people you have heard today. I think that would be really easy. I would like to, we have been talking of the importance of collaboration, of research with policymakers. I wonder whether Jess Halliday is here. I know she has a 5-year-old little girl, so I don't know if she's going to be able to talk now.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes. I'm sharing my bandwidth with Dinah.
Your sound is not very good.
Out a little. Thank you very much to all the participants sharing your experiences. Oh, apologies. Would you like to read my question, Florence?
Or perhaps you can just switch off your video. Perhaps this consumes more.
Let's do that.
Yep.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you to all the participants. Yes, I was very struck, particularly with Tel Aviv, with the research by the Ministry of Health, and as Florence said, this need for link between research and policy. And I was wondering, particularly in the case of Tel Aviv, whether the findings of this research on food security for undocumented immigrants will be used just for a stronger crisis response, or how far these findings might help inform longer term transformations so that the needs of undocumented immigrants and informal food workers also can be considered more systematically in policy. And I'd also be interested to know if similar research is being done elsewhere. Thank you.
Anybody wants to answer that question?
Abigail, are you still here?
If not... so sorry. Oh, okay. I answered earlier in the chat that, and Einat, if you'd like to add something, then okay. But I said that right now we're focused on the emergency response because right now we're in a crisis, but absolutely we're hoping that the research will help us with future programs. This isn't something that we're planning on ending right after this crisis ends. We're hoping to implement it for more long-term issues as well. I hope that answers the question.
Maybe I just would like to say that we are now processing all of this, and maybe it's a good thought what you said before. I don't remember your name, but it's a good.
No, Jess.
No,
sorry.
Yes, but it's a good thought, and we can think about it. I mean, we will have to process all of this and see the results, and then think about using it furthermore.
Yeah, I'll add that we're really in the beginning stages. We finished a series of focus groups in the issue, and we're sending out a survey really right now and probably tomorrow. And so we're really in the midst of beginning this research, and we'll see how it goes. We'll be happy to share it at the end.
Maybe one solution would be to start identifying which are the cities and who are partnering with the research institution. I don't know why I have Claire on my screen, but clearly there is a lot of research institutions in Montpellier, and I know that in Barcelona too, in all the cities, and I think it would be interesting to see how those researchers could actually share what they're doing and try and push towards a common program of how in the wake of COVID-19, the research relating health and sustainable food systems can actually get more synergy and accelerate.
Yeah, Florence, I fully agree with you. And in Montpellier, we are very, very lucky to have this strongly structured research sector with agricultural, agroecology, biodiversity, and food systems, particularly for the southern world, you know, Africa and Southeast Asia. We're working with them a lot at the moment on many different topics, and they have been very interested in the way that we've all dealt with the COVID crisis period. So we'd be very happy to participate in that with our research sector.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a lot of questions coming in the chat box. And I know we have only so much time. Normally it was supposed to finish at 4 o'clock, and bear with us. Those of you who want to stay are welcome to stay. I have at least one contribution from Gilles Martin from FAO now, and then a contribution of Barbara Emmanuel from the city of Toronto. And of course, I'm happy to go on putting people in the list. Gilles?
Okay, thank you, Florence.
and
congratulations for all of you what you have done in your city during this huge crisis. All the speakers, you said that these measures that you have put in place were possible thanks to the existing and pre-existing food policy you had in place, thanks to your networks and local stakeholders already engaged in food systems sustainability. My question is, and as we say also that the COVID crisis is an opportunity to go forward our food systems, my question is, did you receive additional solicitation from other cities to learn from your experience based on this crisis? And more generally, how we could consider the COVID-19 as an opportunity to engage more cities in locally based food approaches and food system transformations? So I don't know, from your experience, did you get additional contacts or solicitations from cities that are not with us this afternoon?
Jota, Jaime, anybody else?
Yes, if I can take the floor first, and if Jaime wants to add up. Gilles, of course, your question is very pertinent, and thank you for that, because actually this is what we're trying to do. This webinar, in fact, is an effort to bring together an entire ecosystem of different actors, including, of course, local authorities, local governments, that perhaps they need to be introduced into this discussion, and perhaps get more information and be helped by the network. And in fact, the networks here, I think they play a very important role in liaising, between different actors that they're not local governments, and put them into contact with them so they can provide their expertise that they have towards them. And also there is this link of trust between peers, that is municipalities with municipalities, and that exchange is really important. And we at the Secretariat see it every single day, because we are connecting different cities that they come with specific requests. I don't know if this answers your question, or you would like me to elaborate further.
I wouldn't mind also to react to this, but Jaime, do you have anything? What I wanted to say is, I think first there are several networks now that are looking at the impact of COVID at city level or at regional level, and these networks are not necessarily connected. I know, for example, I'm working with UN Habitat now that have a series of networks on urban-rural linkages, territorial development, and COVID-19. So we need to see how these different networks can be better linked so that we make the best of the experience. The other important thing, in my view, from the Milan Pact is that it is very important the work they are doing among cities, but it's also important that they communicate the knowledge generated by this network outside of cities, so that cities can actually think of asking members of the Milan Pact for help on specific issues. So I think a lot is by expanded networking. And probably the follow-up of this meeting should go in that. That should be one of the directions to follow.
Also, if I may add, because that's a very good point, Florence, international organizations in this sense, they have this convening power to bring in different cities and different networks together. And we have been participating in 2, perhaps 3 or 4 annual gatherings of meetings, let's say, of networks. And I think that really helped, and perhaps we can still continue. That was under the aegis of FAO, and perhaps we could expand the network of networks, because something good can certainly come out of this. Thanks.
Yeah, because I'm thinking in particular of UCLG, I'm thinking of ICLEI, I'm thinking there is a global task force on local and regional government. I think it is very urgent that we link forces. We're moving towards the 2021 Food System Summit, and we really need to make sure that the dimension you are working on, because you are actually walking the talk. It's not just blah, blah, blah. You are doing things. And very often people that talk at international level, it's also very useful, but I think it's important that they build on the practice you are generating. Barbara Emanuel, are you still online? I think either she is mute or she has abandoned. Okay, seems no Barbara Emanuel around.
Florence.
Yes?
May I ask you something?
Please.
I would say that, I mean, networking is very important.
This is Jaime?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead.
Yes, what I was saying is that, as I mentioned, in Italy, we have this network of, you know, academic, but also they are involved also practitioner and public institutions somehow. So the point is that this network function as kind of boundary organization that put in connection, you know, all the stakeholders. And what we can provide, and is very important, is knowledge. For instance, we develop two questionnaires, one to experts to understand what are the main consequences of the COVID, understand what policies can be developed to face the issues developed by the COVID. Another questionnaire we developed was about consumption habits of people, how this habit has changed. For instance, in Italy, what has radically changed is, for instance, the attitude towards e-commerce. And now people have a different approach to e-commerce. And what we can do is supporting public institutions, and we are also mapping innovative initiative around Italy. That's so we can transform information into a knowledge and transfer knowledge to practitioner, policymakers, and so on and so forth. So it's very important, and I think it's very important the role of academia as, you know, a boundary organization, help to, you know, gather information, learn from case studies, and help with knowledge transmission, help civil society organization and policymakers.
Thanks, Jaime. And thanks, Giampiero, about posting in the chat box the report of the experience of Italian cities in dealing with COVID-19. Any other questions? Because if not, I will pass the floor back to Jota.
Go, Jota.
Okay. Well, given the time, I mean, I'm happy that we exceeded our time that we have preset by 10 almost minutes. So I will not hold you a lot. So I just want to share a few words, but that they contain many, many thank yous, because I would like to thank you, Aidan, and Vicente, that you took the leadership, your cities, in making this webinar a reality. We have been almost 100 people, and thank you for bringing us all together. I would like to thank very much our speakers for their time and the effort they put. We know that these moments, municipalities are very much busy in dealing with the emergency. So it takes an effort to take off time and prepare for this, to share their experience. So I thank them very much. Of course, I thank Florence for this excellent moderation and fueling of the debate. And of course, Jaime for shaping up what we have said so far, and also providing some more information which I think are useful to everybody. Last but not least, the warmest thank you goes to all of you who attended today. And we at the Pact, my colleagues, I'm sure they agree with me, like to call each one of you friends of the Milan Pact, because the fact is that the MUFPP network is thriving within a wider community, which is composed by you, and it's an ecosystem, huge ecosystem that has many different actors, as I was saying before with Gilles. I couldn't help it not to look to the list of the participants, and I just found that we have ministries today, local governments, universities and research centers, NGOs, private foundations, international partners, international foundations. So that gives us pleasure and the strength to go on, continue our work, extend our collaboration and partnerships with many of you. So again, thank you very much. Until the next meeting, hopefully in person in Barcelona, or perhaps in Africa, in Ouagadougou.
Jota, there's other questions coming in which are very important, but I think we can't take them. So for example, Hagit, maybe what's important is that the questions that have not been answered, this could be in the report of the workshop as ideas of what to work, because I think his point about food donations is really, really important. It's going to be particularly important for this coming phase.
Thank you very much, Florence. I thank you for noting my question. It's a question from Tel Aviv, of course.
I also want to thank Jota for chairing this important webinar. And thank you everyone as well.
Thank you, Jota. Cecile.
Yes, colleagues are here. Cecile has been posting on Facebook. I thank everybody. And actually, I just want to address one comment by Maria, who says it would be great if these comments and questions that have been shared in the chat box can be copied, paste, and kept. We will write a report, so we'll make sure that all this information that has been traveling in the chat box will be put somewhere, so you can find it as well. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for playing.